My name is Shardé, and I am the head of photography for the Moments Project. I joined this project because Kimmy actually reached out to me because she followed me on Instagram, and my own photography is very focused on Black women and Black women's stories and rendering images of Black women in just a variety of ways, a variety of shapes, a variety of body types and performances. So I was very excited about the storyline of the project, and it aligned with my own work. I think this piece is important because there are a lot of conversations around expanding global identity, as well as how we interact with each other as members of the diaspora. And I think that because the world is sort of expanding at such a rapid rate, it's even more important for us to have conversations and to have pieces of art that sort of help facilitate conversations around how any people, not just persons in the diaspora, but like people with different perspectives can learn to interact with one another in a way that's generative. I'm a child of artists. Both of my parents are very creative. My mother is actually a photographer as well. She does street photography. Being raised by an artist and has always made me look at the world differently, I suppose. I'm very sort of cognizant of just slowing down and taking in things around me, taking in details about people. And so that definitely translates in my work because I really do my best to use my camera as a way of seeing people more deeply. And also, I'm Black. I am blackity black. My mom is very much pro-Black, and I think that has made my work, not just as a photographer, but even as a scholar. I study Black people and the diaspora. So it just is a natural thing for me to want to create more bodies of work that speak to my people and their different perspectives and ways of living. I would say access. I think for many members of the Black community, access to things would become, and having more resources would utterly change the ways in which they're able to live their lives. If you are so focused on paying bills and making sure there is a roof over your head and your basic needs are met, you don't have the capacity to necessarily think broadly about things, to conceive what life might be like for you outside of just trying to survive day to day. And I think having more resources, having more options at our disposal, and being able to sort of learn how to use those resources would definitely allow more people the opportunity to imagine, to think, to be creative, to consider what life could be like instead of what life is at the moment. I think there's just so much stigma around being a Black woman, and so much responsibility and pressure to lead and to bear the brunt of the weight, not just for raising families, but for the community and pushing the community forward, and doing emotional and intellectual labor. And that's hard. That's a lot to ask of any one group of people, any one person. And for me personally, I try to, as a part of my work, consider, well, what would it be like if Black women were taken care of more, instead of being the ones that are expected to pull everybody else. I think this project has stretched my creative capacity to think about how I generally try to approach my work and ask myself, can I do this a little bit differently? What can I give to the project that makes it distinct, while still having my own stamp on it. And I don't know that my mind has changed about since doing the project, because I'm quite well traveled, and I have been to the continent and interacted with a lot of people that are first gen here. I have friends that are first gen, but I do think that those experiences sort of help me to be really ready to sit back and listen, and then take the stories that I hear about and try my best to render that in a visual narrative. Right. I think the thing that sort of sticks with me is this idea of tension, and that sometimes there's a misconstrual of how we understand one another, and that we feel like there's such a distance there that conversations cannot be had. So for me, with the project, my goal is to provide these visuals in a way that help facilitate conversations that people will be able not only to see themselves in, but go, this is something that I really want to engage in a conversation with other people about, and to hopefully cause them to share across not just person to person, but like social media platforms, etc., just to have one more tool to facilitate the conversations that can be had. I think the one thing that I might hope gets across in my contribution to the project would be that stories are layered, that you can see something, you can look at it once and see one thing, you can look at it again, see something else, and that there are different ways in which you can ingest a piece of content or artwork, and it can draw you in on multiple levels. So I definitely want that to be the case, that you see something and you can look at it and be like, I have to look at it again, because there are so many different things that are speaking to me about the image. I think conversations should be happening are how are we different, and how are we the same, and out of those things can we build really valuable relationships that don't demonize the difference, or totally render the similarities in this sort of romantic way, but that there is a complexity, and that we're able to relate to each other and hold those complexities in tension, and be okay with that, and out of that produce really intentional relationships with one another.